Let's go. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of the Take 3 podcast. We're here on Tuesday afternoon, just after Monday Night Football, where the Bears roll into Foxborough, absolutely throttle the Patriots. We watch kind of the Mac Jones. It could be an end of an era, to be honest. It's crazy to say that short, but I mean, sports are kind of ruthless nowadays when you see, especially with quarterbacks, man, to see them chanting Bailey Zappe's name is kind of crazy. Obviously, Mac Jones was out with a high ankle sprain. He's probably still not at 100%, but it's looking bleak there across the league as well. I mean, we watched Taylor Heineke maybe end Carson Wentz's short run in Washington. Hard to come back. I mean, he rolls in one game, obviously not pretty, but he beats Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, has Aaron Rodgers freaking out. Panthers, the Panthers, PJ Walker shocks everybody as well. It was like a weekend of upsets. The Panthers dominate the Bucs. It's weird to see Tom Brady. I mean, it's kind of looking like the come out of retirement thing was a bad decision. The Seahawks are leading the NFC West. Christian McCaffrey's in a 49ers jersey. Didn't really change the results over there. So, I mean, I'm calling it the weekend of upsets. There was quite a few upsets, quite a few teams that got back on track. What do you make of what happened in week 7?
Yeah, weekend of upsets is a good name for it. We got some outlier finishes, a couple teams bouncing back, and then we learned a little bit more about certain teams. There's definitely some surprising ones. I look at Seattle and the Chargers. We'll get into that one. Both New York teams are rolling. So another interesting weekend of football. I think it's getting much more clear who the good teams are and who are the not so good teams, and definitely some surprises on the season.
Yeah, I think the spread across the board of like teams that are actually legit, I think it's as narrow as it's ever been, to be honest, especially there's a small window of teams that I really think are super, super legit. And then there's a bunch of teams that are kind of just out there floating in no man's land that are 1 week, they'll turn it on, another week, they won't have it. But let's jump into kind of the first thing that we're going to talk about today to wrap up week 7, the Bucs and the Packers. I mean, it's a hot topic, right? It's weird to see Tom Brady 3-4, Aaron Rodgers 3-4. We kind of knew that the Packers offense was going to be pretty bad. We thought the defense would be there and be able to do enough, but the offense is just awful over there in Green Bay. And then same thing with Tampa Bay, no explosive plays. Tom Brady's kind of struggling. He throws the ball 50 times, couldn't find a way to get in the end zone. They get dominated. Which team do you kind of trust to dig themselves out of a hole, maybe put things together and kind of put themselves in that position where maybe come the end of the season, they can get hot and make a run for a Super Bowl? Is it you're rolling with Tom Brady, you're rolling with Aaron Rodgers to kind of put that back together, as they both look bleak right now?
If I have to pick one of those guys for a postseason run this year, I'm still rolling Tom Brady in the Bucs. Aaron Rodgers' offense, it just doesn't have weapons, right? Not only does it not look good, A.J. Dillon's all of a sudden not getting touches. They don't have like any chemistry with the receiving game. I don't see any solutions for like Green Bay, really. I think they're going to struggle all year. And that's the reason I picked the Bucs for that question, because yes, the Bucs are struggling and Tom Brady's not playing well. The O-line's not playing well at all. I think that's the biggest factor in it. But like Tom Brady has chemistry with his weapons, and he has legit great weapons still. And that's the reason if I had to pick one, I go the Bucs, because there's no like, at least with the Bucs on paper, the talent is still all there. With Green Bay, no one's walking through the door. Devontae Adams isn't walking through the door. I do not care if they sign Odell. They won't. But, like, let's say that's one of the scenarios. I just don't see any realistic scenario to get, like, the lightning spark that this Green Bay offense needs. And for Tampa Bay, in theory, on paper, they could still put it together because they have the weapons. But I'm so concerned with the O-line play. Ryan Jensen being gone for the year. We knew that was going to be an issue, but, like, I think it's a much bigger issue than we even thought heading in. And I got to lean the Bucs simply because they have the weapons still. And like, I also prefer their defense. The Packers defense has been kind of disappointing to me this year. Obviously the Buccaneers have not played well the last few weeks, but I believe in their defense more than Green Bay's. But I go Tampa Bay simply because they have more talent on paper. But if I'm being honest, if I was to just like ignore the question and just straight up answer, I don't trust either of these teams moving forward. Neither of these teams I feel like can make legitimate runs to the Super Bowl. Kind of crazy to say because of who their quarterbacks are, but man, I don't really believe in either through 7 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I wonder if you're Green Bay, do you sit back and you say, can you call Carolina up and see if they'll be willing to give you DJ Moore, what you can do, right? They need somebody out wide that can absolutely break down a defense. And yeah, they've kind of abandoned the run game, right? We talked about this going into the season with them when we previewed the NFC North and we previewed the Packers, was they're going to have to rely on the run game. This is going to be a year where you're going to have to run the football. You have 2 good running backs. You're going to have to trust the defense. And they've kind of went away from that, right? It's kind of turned into the Aaron Rodgers short pass show. and it just hasn't worked out, right? You see, he's super frustrated. The team seems frustrated. They went away with it. And then, Tom Brady, I mean, I don't know. The O-line's bad. They don't really have a run game either. And just the explosive plays, right? We've seen less and less explosive plays. Their longest passing play on Sunday was a 35-yard pass to Cade Otton, which is a tight end that I've honestly never heard of before that day, right? So that's concerning that the explosive plays aren't there. The time's not there. And I'm with you. I really wouldn't trust either of these teams. I'd probably, if I had to pick one, would take Tom Brady just because I trust him a lot more than Aaron Rodgers to kind of guide a team back. But I mean, do you think there's a shot that both of these teams could potentially miss the playoffs? Could it go super sour where we don't see either Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady in the playoffs this year? I mean, obviously Tom Brady has a favorable division, right? That division's pretty bad, but they're not outright leader right now.
Yeah, so I think the Green Bay Packers should have missed the playoffs at this point. They're sitting at 3-4. You're in the division with the 5-1 Minnesota Vikings. All of a sudden, it looks like they're like hanging out with the Bears record-wise, and you have the Detroit Lions still aren't very good. But then you head over to the NFC South, and it's like a slugfest, right? Dogfight. Like they're all around the same area. The Bucs, Falcons, Saints, and Panthers. None of them have looked spectacular. For that reason, like I definitely feel like the Bucs are a playoff team still. I think as of today, they're minus 200 to make the playoffs still. I don't think that's really saying much because of the division, but at this point in time, I truly believe Green Bay misses the playoffs. And the DJ Moore point is so interesting to me. But the thing is, like, Carolina has no incentive to trade DJ Moore unless you give up like first round picks, which then you're giving up too much because like DJ Moore is a young, nice receiver. Christian McCaffrey trade makes sense. They're rebuilding and they're going to want a good, reliable weapon for a new young quarterback. So I would be kind of surprised if they move DJ Moore. I don't think it makes sense for the Panthers, but he's a perfect target. But I got to say that I think the Packers at this point, trade or not, I think they missed the playoffs.
For sure. I think the Packers are a toast. If they get somebody out wide, if they get a DJ Moore, I think I'd give them a maybe a inkling of a chance to do something. But I mean, you're right. Unless I say everybody has a price, right? The Packers came out and offered a wild price tag. If they're going to give firsts and seconds, I think Carolina sends him over in a heartbeat. But I don't think that's there. They're going to look to get a quarterback. They want a legit weapon for their quarterback and new head coach next year as well. And the Bucs, I mean, they kind of luck out. The division's pretty shitty. You got a couple rebuilding teams. You got the Falcons that are kind of they're overperforming, some would say. And I mean, I think they only have to win like 9 ball games and they win the division, right? It's not a tight race. They don't have to race. The Packers, they're playing an uphill climb. I mean, the good thing is the NFC, like the wild card window, the records aren't really amazing, right? Everybody's kind of bunched around right at that 3 wins. So I mean, both of these, the Packers still technically do have a chance, but I mean, it's bleak. They got to put something together on offense. I would say get back to the run game. I mean, the Aaron Rodgers flat route pass shit, it's not doing it.
And last point for both of these is that like it's not like these teams are losing to like the Bills or the Chiefs. They're losing to the Panthers and the Commanders and not very good football teams. The Pittsburgh Steelers last week. So it's pretty damn concerning.
Yeah, they've lost to PJ Walker, Mitch Trubisky. The other guys are losing the Heineke's of the world. It's just not looking good, man. It's not looking good for either of these teams. Let's move on. Second thing on the dock, another team that's the hype is all around the Chargers going into the season. They get Khalil Mack. Everybody's healthy. Justin Herbert. They have everything, and it just hasn't really came together. Obviously, the Herbert injury kind of unfortunate, but they're sitting 4-3. The Seahawks roll in, and now they lead the NFC West at 4-3. Kenneth Walker looks good. Geno Smith somehow, I mean, he's just putting it together. The team, I don't know. I mean, they're finding ways to win each week. It's funny to watch this team just kind of go out and they just play football. They play carefree, and it seems like everybody's tensed up when they play, and these guys are just doing whatever they want. They realize there's no real expectation. We were laughing at them doing the preview. We said they're winning 2 ball games. I gave them maybe, I think 3, just because Seattle's a tough crowd, but they're overperforming as well, and now lead the NFC West division with the Cardinals, with the Rams, with the San Francisco 49ers. What do you make of this, man? I mean, the Seahawks are pretty shocking. I got to give credit to Pete Carroll. He's kind of put something together out of nowhere when we were kind of writing them off and saying, this is the retirement year, get out of Dodge. And they're finding ways to win ball games. Could be a similar situation where they're bleeding themselves out of being able to get a future quarterback, but Geno Smith spinning the rock like this, I mean, you never know, right? And then the Chargers 4-3, highly competitive division. Obviously, they dropped 1 to the Chiefs already this year. They're not really living up to the hype that we build up for them heading into this year.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with the Chargers because I'm just kind of disappointed in the Chargers so far. I mean, 4-3, a lot of season left, but they just had such high expectations. Now, granted, they have a ton of injuries, but that feels like every single season for the Chargers. This is another season that feels like a classic Chargers season, and I'm just curious if Brandon Staley can even survive the season at this point. He's going to have to make the playoffs. He might even have to win a playoff game to survive. I just think it'll be pretty interesting to see how the Chargers season plays out. I don't have a ton of commentary on it. I'm just curious at this point is if the coaching staff can make it through, because obviously if Brandon Staley doesn't get there, obviously the Chargers is like the best landing spot for any head coach. I'm thinking Sean Payton, that's obviously been thrown out, but like the Chargers, even when they were healthy, I don't know. Ever since that pick six against the Chiefs, where they really could have made a statement, won that game, it's been kind of disappointing. I'm not going to count them out. Very loaded division. They have plenty of talent, but they got to get healthy. And I'm just curious if Staley even makes it through the year at this point, because it's starting to seem like when you watch Chargers games that like all the talk about his analytics and his fourth down decisions. There's been a couple of times where he's been hesitant this year. It's almost like he's letting the outside voices influence them. So that's kind of interesting. But Chargers, I need to see more. And then the Seahawks. Like, I need to apologize for Seattle. I was entirely wrong. Granted, I think almost everybody was. The Seattle Seahawks as a franchise were not exactly phenomenal before Russell Wilson. They had one playoff appearance or one Super Bowl appearance, I think 2005-ish. And since then, the franchise hasn't ever really been that good. And then all of a sudden, they had phenomenal draft classes. They had a Hall of Famer, and then you got Pete Carroll at the helm. And like, I thought the franchise was kind of arrogant about Russell Wilson. Like, I thought that they were kind of arrogant about being able to replace him, simply just draft great players again, because they hadn't exactly had a great record or a great history as a franchise for doing it. But I was entirely wrong. They were entirely correct. They got rid of Russ. They plugged in Geno Smith, who has been very accurate. I think that's his best attribute. He's been extremely accurate. They haven't really missed a beat. They're playing the football that Pete Carroll really loves them to play. It's the brand of football that got Russell Wilson a Super Bowl. It's the brand of football that made Russ into who he is now, that got him that $200 million contract, that trade. But like, the Seahawks were on the right side. They got a ton of picks. They got rid of Russell, who is clearly declining. They got a much cheaper quarterback. They're winning games. They got great draft picks. So it's like the Seahawks are in a phenomenal place. And like, I got to just apologize to that franchise and Pete Carroll, because I was entirely wrong and they were entirely correct about the Russell Wilson situation.
That's facts, man. I didn't even focus on that. The Seahawks literally, they hold Denver's draft pieces, right? So their picks are getting better and better by the day, right? They could swing something technically if they said, yeah, we had a fun year with Geno Smith, right? But we're going to go up and make a move and get somebody. We're going to get a CJ Stroud. We'll go make a swing and try to get Bryce Young. Any of these quarterbacks, they could do that at the draft just by the amount of capital that they have. But yeah, I mean, they clearly won the trade. Now, Kenneth Walker's legit, the man, 23 carries, $168, 2 touchdowns. He's everything that they wanted. That's a stud. And yeah, I mean, they have speed on the outside, right? They got Tyler Lockett. Sucks DK Metcalf got hurt. And then they got Marquise Goodwin, who just revived himself, 4 catches, 67 and 2 touchdowns. They're just playing free football, right? They're just having fun out there. There's no super serious expectation. It seems to be working for them. As you said, Geno Smith's doing enough, making accurate passes, playing good quarterback for them. And somehow, it's weird to say, but he's better than Russ, right? They improved at the quarterback position, which is a hell of a comment to make. But at this point, I mean, it's fair to say, I mean, clearly after watching Russell Wilson accumulate injuries and not be able to read defenses, it's as simple as that. And then the Chargers, I mean, I think Brandon Staley will make it through. I think they have enough talent where they'll probably get a wild card slot, but I expect them to be one and done most likely. I mean, the injuries are accumulating for them. The pressure is on them, Staley, Herbert, and those guys to win games and do things and make a run at this thing. I just don't see it. And I think he'll be canned after the season. I don't think they'll kind of get rid of him mid-season. It's just kind of weird. They have enough talent. They'll scratch something out. But yeah, he's definitely, his days are numbered. He's on like the Frank Reich time clock where his days are numbered. He'll be gone right after they get bounced in the wild card round. I think they're a one and done team. It's just every year, right? It's hard. Every year the Chargers, great talent, and then injury. It's the new norm, right? It's almost like they should prepare in the offseason to say, we're going to have guys that get hurt because we got a shitty training staff. And that is what it is. But yeah, the Chargers disappointing considering we expected them to maybe push the Chiefs for the AFC West, and it just doesn't seem like they're on that level. Let's move on to the Chiefs, right? The Chiefs roll in. They roll into San Fran, keep coming off a loss last week. Both teams were coming off a loss, and the Chiefs, it was close early, but they kind of took over. Patrick Mahomes took over. Jimmy Garoppolo doing Jimmy G things, fading, throwing the ball straight to Chiefs defenders at the 5-yard line. Pretty embarrassing. McCaffrey for the limited number of snaps. I mean, he was bouncing some runs, right? I'm interested to see heading in the next couple of weeks. Obviously, he'll get a bigger workload after a full week of practice heading into week 8 and then so forth. But I mean, the Chiefs, they were back. Cruz got Hardman involved. And then as the question says on the stream, what is San Fran's true ceiling? Because I mean, they have a ton of talent on that roster. The defense is there, but with Jimmy G, I mean, I've watched enough Jimmy Garoppolo football that I think the days of the 2020 Super Bowl run where they made it there with him, I think those are long gone. I don't think their true ceiling is really like that high. Like I don't see them as a Super Bowl team or even being able to make a run with Jimmy G. I just don't trust him anymore. I think he's ran his course. So what do you think their true ceiling is? And I mean, what do you make out of the Chiefs getting things back on track and just showing where it was a 1-game slip up, tough loss at home, but we're back. We're still that team.
Yeah, the Chiefs, point real quick. They're those guys. Like they did their thing. They have 2 losses on the year. They should have beat the Colts. They didn't have a kicker for that game. And then you barely lose to the Bills. There's no shame in that. Mahomes is going to play better next time they see him, I would assume, if they see him in the playoffs. And like the Chiefs are just that team. They've been that team the last 4 years. They're still that team. Going to San Francisco, do what they do to blow the doors open at the end, like, was very impressive, honestly, because it was an impressive win, but the fact that they blew it open at the end was very telling to me. The Chiefs, it's just Chiefs and Bills in the AFC. Like, there are some other very good teams, but they're clearly a step above everybody. It's Chiefs, Bills. And then San Francisco is so interesting. I think I'm jumping on board with you that like their ceiling is not as high anymore. We've seen the best that we've seen from Jimmy. Obviously, I was bandwagoning the Niners last year in that playoff run. I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. They lost in the conference championship. And like the true ceiling, it's hard. I don't think it's a Super Bowl win anymore. I don't even think it's a Super Bowl appearance. It's probably a conference championship game appearance. They just, the thing with the NFC is like the Eagles look elite and legit. Dallas is probably elite. I got to say the Giants right now, simply because of record, I still do not really believe it. I don't think they're as good as Dallas or Philadelphia. But like outside of that, I mean, I guess the Niners, right? Minnesota looks good so far as well. But it's hard for me to say the Chiefs are like the cream of the crop. I mean, the Niners are the cream of the crop and one of the elite teams. And it just this whole conversation with San Francisco since Jimmy G and Kyle Shanahan has been there. It's a lot of like variables surrounding San Francisco being really good. And what I mean by that, it's always, if Jimmy G doesn't make a mistake, if the weapons are all there around him, if the offensive line is healthy, if the defense is healthy, if Bosa is getting after the quarterback, it's like, obviously you need everyone on teams to play well. But like whenever we talk about the San Francisco 49ers, it always feels like there's so many what ifs and variables that we have to add in for them to be like that elite team. And granted, we've seen them do it before, but it's just hard to trust because it feels like San Francisco has to have everything correct for them to be elite. When in reality, like when you see Kansas City, Buffalo, Philadelphia this year, things go wrong, right? You get down by 14, you throw interceptions, something goes wrong, but they find ways to win. They still look elite. They look good. They figure it out. It's just like the Niners have flashes, but like I just don't see it at this point. It feels like every time we talk about the Niners, it's like everything has to go right for them to really reach that ceiling. And I just think it's too many variables.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the end of last year we saw that was kind of the everything going right, being able to go on the road, beat Aaron Rodgers, right, going to Green Bay and do all that stuff to make the NFC title. I think they're lucky if they make it into the divisional round, right? I think they have enough talent where they could still sneak in like a wild card, win a game, but I don't know if they win a divisional round game. It's just weird, right? They got out to a 10-0 lead. Patrick Mahomes threw them a gift to start the game, and then they still find ways to lose. It's tough for me to trust Jimmy G. The run game really wasn't there for a team that's up 10-0, right? I mean, I guess that teams don't really respect Jimmy G, so they can kind of come in the box, play that. But yeah, I mean, they feel Chargers just, right, saying that this has to happen. Staley has to not do this. Yeah. It's Kyle Shanahan has to do this. Kittle has to be healthy. Ayuk has to go off. Debo has to be there. All these variables, as you mentioned. And yeah, I don't know. It's like Kyle Shanahan, how it's back to the thing for me is how truly, really good is he, right? He's touted as this guru, and then we kind of turns around to the same question marks every year. And then they obviously last year find a way to put things together at the right time, make a run. They obviously made a Super Bowl, but it's just kind of, I don't know, it's flip flop. I'm not a big, huge Kyle Shanahan guy. He's a smart guy, but I don't know how super like sold I am on him if every year we have the same questions about the 49ers, right?
The one thing I'll say about them is Christian McCaffrey in that offense is going to be so nice and so fun once he's like fully acclimated. And I just hope he gets majority of the touches because like outside of their ceiling, like that's going to just be fun to watch.
Yeah, he should. If they traded for him to not run him and use him, they are they are absolutely insane if they're going to keep firing out Jeff Wilson once he's fully integrated in that offense. I know they like to use the multiple running backs, but just use Christian McCaffrey because the limited snaps that he had in the first two, I think he ripped off a 10-yard and a 12-yard run right up the middle. It was clear as day. So yeah, I mean the future there is bright. It's just how far can Jimmy G and can everything else go correctly for them to put a season together. Moving on, Bears last night, obviously fresh on everybody's mind. The Bears roll in, surprise us. We both rolled Patriots -8, said it's probably a bad decision. I felt like the defense would be able to do a lot. The defense did absolutely nothing for the Patriots. It was pretty abysmal, pretty shitty defense, to be honest. 33-14, Justin Fields does it on the ground, does a little bit with the arm. But the big story coming out of this is the Patriots fans chanting for Bailey Zappe when Mac Jones threw a pick, didn't look great. And then Zappe comes in and immediately leads a touchdown drive. Got him, I think, he didn't score the second touchdown, but led 2 touchdown drives. I think Ramondre scored the second one on the ground. But yeah, is this the end of kind of Mac Jones? And then what do you make of this? I mean, we both rolled we both rolled Patriots. We both get spurned by the Bears. It's tough, but is Mac Jones, is it kind of done? You think they roll Bailey Zappe this week?
I don't think it's done for Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones should be the starter in New England. I mean, he's been hurt. I don't think he's 100% still, but like the other option's Zappe, right? And like, I don't think they have great quarterback options in general. I would roll Mac Jones. I think he's a better quarterback still. Zappe had some flashes. Mac Jones won 7 in a row last year, took you to a playoff game. Not a great start to the year, but like I don't think Zappe's shown enough. I would still roll Mac Jones because I simply think he's still a better quarterback. But I mean, the Patriots aren't exactly a great football team. They're not in a great spot. They don't have the most talent on either side of the ball. Bill Belichick does a lot with that defense. And I think they're just kind of in a weird purgatory too. Like the Mike Tomlin Steelers outside of this year, finally, like refusing to lose 8-9 games more, right? And I think Bill Belichick and this scheme and having good enough players will constantly get them to 6 to 9 wins. And it just kind of puts them in a weird purgatory. And then the quarterback situation, and you know, it's also weird because like usually Bill Belichick is like decisive and knows what he's doing. Apparently the plan last night was to start Mac Jones, go to Zappe, and then go back to Mac Jones. That was like the legitimate offensive plan for the Patriots. And that just seems so like uncharacteristic for Bill Belichick. I don't know. I don't want to question it, but like I'm kind of questioning it. It seems weird. Mac Jones obviously struggled. Zappe went in there, went 4 for 4 and scored 2 touchdowns in like 5 minutes, but then there was no more points the rest of the game. I would roll Mac Jones as long as he's actually 100% healthy. I don't think there's good answers either way here. I don't think New England's in a good spot. If it is the end of Mac Jones and it's just Zappe's team moving forward, I don't think they're in a good spot. I think within a couple of years, neither of those guys are going to be quarterback in the Patriots.
Yeah, probably. I mean, that makes sense. Yeah, they don't have good options. I don't know. I mean, it's not ideal, right? The 2 QB situation to that be the scheme. That's like something that somebody runs in Madden. You don't expect to see that from a guy that's won the amount of Super Bowls that he's won as a head coach. But yeah, it's just not ideal. I don't think the weapons. I mean, when Devontae Parker's your number one, you got Jacoby Myers out there, you got Tyquan Thornton. Like, it's just not guys out there that you really want for these young quarterbacks, right? And then the scheme as a whole, right? It seems like the play calling for Mac Jones, it's handoff, try to wing it on 3rd down, doesn't work. He throws an interception, gets booed up by the fans. Zappe does his thing for 2 drives, and then as you mentioned, it's stalled. Yeah, I don't think either of these guys are really great options, so I'd probably just ride with Mac, as you said, as long as he's healthy, right? So that way you know what you have in him. But the play calling, I mean, it's tough in a Matt Patricia offense, right? You have a defensive head coach. You have a defensive guy who is the defensive coordinator now calling the offensive plays. It's like the old I forget the guy. It was Juan Castilla that the Eagles had. He was like a D line coach and they had him as the offense, or he was either an offensive coach calling the defensive plays. I think that's what it was. He was an O-line coach, and they had him as defensive coordinator. Didn't work. So it's just kind of a weird fit to bring in Matt Patricia and then have, I think, Joe Judge is there with some influence as well. It's like two guys that they sucked as head coaches. Neither of them are good at calling plays, and those are the guys that you bring in to kind of build up these young quarterbacks. Doesn't seem ideal. So yeah, I mean, the Patriots, they're kind of out of options. Their best option is just to keep losing, right? Get yourself up to where you can get an elite quarterback, because I don't know if Mac Jones is that guy. And obviously, I really don't. I mean, I watched Bailey Zappe in the game at Lambeau a little bit last night. I mean, he's fun to watch, right? Root him on, but he's not that guy either, to be honest. The guy was playing NAIA football, went to Western Kentucky. I mean, he did all that.
Yeah.
That's a cool story, but for a future in the NFL, I mean, I've seen the throw power. He's not that dude. Let it get like 20 or 30 degrees colder with some wind, and that guy's throws are going to be getting knocked down. They're going to look like ducks. So yeah, the Patriots are in a bad spot. I would say purgatory is the perfect term for them. They got some pieces on defense, but the offensive scheme is that bad that they're not going anywhere.
I don't think most of the league is upset they're in purgatory after the last 20 plus 25 years before that. But I'm glad you said their best option is to just lose games. It really is. They will never do it as long as Bill Belichick is still head coach. But all of a sudden, the AFC East is very competitive and like good. New England's in purgatory. They're not going to beat the Bills ever. They're not going to beat the Dolphins, and now the Jets are starting to come together. I think it's a perfect year for New England to lose a bunch of games, and they'll figure out a way to win 7 still.
Yep, exactly. But let's move on. Last topic on the fray. We got to cover them every week as long as they keep winning, right? The Jets, they go on the road. Tough Breece Wilson injury, or Breece Hall. Why did I say Breece Wilson? Breece Hall, torn ACL, lost him in the game, but they did just add James Robinson, which we'll probably get into at some point next week. That's a big running back addition to kind of help them out. They go on the road. They're kind of still waiting for Zach Wilson to kind of hit that peak. He's kind of running around still like a maniac doing things, but the run game and the defense seems like it's there. Obviously, they didn't face Russell Wilson. They faced Brett Ripien. Not exactly a world beater at quarterback, but they win. They're 5-2. Those are games that the old Jets would lose for sure on the road. Yeah. They're 5-2, and then the Giants go down to Jacksonville, the trap game. The public, everybody was on them. I think 80% of the money was on the Giants. Like everybody was heavy Giants, and they took care of business. It was a little sweaty at the end. Trevor Lawrence had a shot to lead a drive, and it just didn't happen. Daniel Jones, another clean game, 19-30, 200 yards. Didn't do anything amazing. Didn't turn the football over. Had 100 yards on the ground as well. Saquon does it again, another 100 yards. The Giants are 6-1 for the first time since 2008. The Jets are 5-2. What do you make, man? The New York teams, as we laughed about before, elite football, I guess, is being played in New York now.
Yeah, all of a sudden the New York teams are the cream of the crop. The Jets, like the Broncos have been so bad. I think they would have won even if Russell Wilson was playing. I like what the Jets are doing this year. You need more out of Zach Wilson. The Breece Hall thing sucks. James Robinson's a legitimate starter in this league, so maybe they won't miss a beat, right? But like that really sucks. He was having a phenomenal rookie year. Looked like he was going to get offensive rookie of the year at least. And it's like, so that really sucks to see. But as far as the Jets commentary, we just need Zach Wilson to pick it up, get better through the air week to week. That's really what they're missing. And then the Giants, Jags, obviously the Jags had a chance to win the game down the stretch. Yeah, the public was all over New York. I thought it was a really good spot to hit the Jags because of that. And they had a really good chance to win, but when I watched part of that Jags game, I'm looking, it's like they had over 11 or 12 penalties, a ton of penalty yardage. It just sloppy, undisciplined football from Jacksonville. And like, that's what you get when you do that. Like, you're going to lose games. You're going to lose close games. Like, they have to be more disciplined. They have to be better. And Trevor Lawrence has to be better. He's supposed to be this guy. He's shown flashes in his career. He hasn't really put it together more than like 2 weeks in a row. So it's pretty disappointing for Jacksonville. Shout out to the New York Giants. They win again. And I think you pretty much nailed it. They played mistake-free football. And that's what's getting it done for them. The Jags played undisciplined, made mistakes, and that really was the difference. So kudos to the Giants. Kudos to the Jets. I'm curious, if the Giants and Jets played each other, which team would you take?
I'd probably roll Giants. I trust Dable. I think that defense would be able to get after Zach Wilson a little bit. And yeah, I mean, that's it. I trust the Dable scheme over the Robert Saleh. And I'm a little bit, if you put the two quarterbacks at this point in time, I'm probably rolling Danny Dimes. He seems more consistent than Zach Wilson's kind of running all over the place and doing crazy stuff type of scheme.
Yeah, I think I would agree, because the Giants are going to make less mistakes. But I think that would actually be kind of fun for the first time in, I don't know, 10, 15 years.
Exactly. It's weird to see them both with good records. I mean, 6-1, 5-2 through 7 weeks. They're in prime position. I mean, they both have a legit shot to make the playoffs this year, and it's something that I didn't think I'd be sitting here saying through 7 weeks of football. Let's move on. Last thing on here, our spread picks from the week. Obviously, we got screwed by the Patriots. Bucs screwed us as well. I didn't really take, and the Chargers did, to be honest. If we're being real, Patriots, Chargers, Bucs.
Dolphins.
Dolphins kind of did, but it's like that was a Vegas one. So I don't know. I mean, I just rolled Dolphins just 'cause I don't trust the Steelers. But I mean, anything left on this docket? I guess the Titans do the job. They end Matt Ryan's era, right? He had a shoulder thing, but they said he was getting benched regardless. So his season ends probably as similar as Frank Reich's last season, or the Colts head coach is going to end. Not good. Probably good just to get him out of there. Lose as many games as you can with Sam Ehlinger. But any of these other games before we kind of wrap this thing up?
Saints were dead the second Andy Dalton managed to throw 2 pick sixes in like 1 minute of football. That was impressive, honestly. Reminded me of Tony Romo on Thanksgiving against the Panthers way back when in like 2015. But yeah, the Dolphins -7 simply because they were 1 point away from covering, and it was literally a scoreless second half. So that was pretty lame. And then the Falcons' undefeated streak against the spread tightens 6-0. They go down. They did not cover. The Bengals covered. I went 6-8. You went 8-6. Puts me at 47-55. 8 games under 500 through 7 weeks. Not great, honestly. And then you're sitting basically at 500, 51, 50-1. But yeah, spreads have not done well for me so far this year. Kind of gone in the opposite direction each week. It's been like 1 to 2 games under 500. So hopefully we can get it together heading into week 8.
For sure. Big shout out to the Bengals for being able to find explosive plays. Their big 3 out wide damn near all had 100 yards. T. Higgins came up short with 93. But I mean, to get those guys the football and make plays. Joe Burrow for once, 34-42, 481 yards, 3 touchdowns, clean game. That's what we're looking for, right? It's week 7. I mean, that's the Bengals finally got it together. Huge 4-3 W for their run in that division. Obviously, they dropped the game to the Ravens last second, Justin Tucker, but I mean, they've got back on track. If they keep that going, they'll be in good position heading into the middle portion of the season. And yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head. We rolled the Saints let down for you. I just took the Cardinals just because of the Cardinals at home over the Andy Dalton. Yeah, just didn't trust Andy Dalton. Cowboys did their thing. It's sad. The Lions are going out sad. They were able to score points at one point, and now they can't score. They can't score any more points. It's like, I don't know. They ran out of points. They used too much through the first like 3-4 games that they can't. Yeah. The Dan Campbell offense is tapped out. Jared Goff's topped out. But I mean, good win for the Cowboys, right? 5-2 at the break. They kind of get Dak back against the team that they'd like him to face. Did nothing amazing. The defense kind of did it all, to be honest. The defense was stout once again, which carried them. But I mean, yeah, that's all I have. Trusted the Ravens in a division game. Probably shouldn't have. They're really not. I mean, they're good, but I don't know how great the Ravens are this year. But
yeah,
anything else?
No, I think that's it. Get through week 7. Eagles bye week. Week 8 will be much better because the Eagles are playing.
For sure. Week 8, we got some decent matchups to talk about, but I mean, that's going to wrap this thing up for week 7. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Drop any feedback below or on Twitter. As always, Spotify link will be in the description of this video if you're audio only. And yeah, thank you for listening. We'll be back for a week 8 preview tomorrow.